You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Barbell Logic. Welcome to Beast Over Burden. Nice to see you all here.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon. Here I am with Andrew Jackson. I am Nikki Sims, by the way. But you know that, I think, by this point. We're best friends now.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt came out with a podcast on Friday that uses a word we talk about frequently. It's almost in one of our core values. The word is hard.
Uniquely hard, I believe, was the title of
Uniquely
the
hard.
episode. Yeah.
And this is definitely a recurring theme within our company because we like our training to be simple, hard, and effective in the moment of your workouts. We love when we hear our clients say, in any variation, it was hard but doable. And a really cool point that Matt was making is that you kind of need to feel that.
Yeah. And that it doesn't feel good most of the time.
Yeah.
Or at least, I think when you haven't done a lot of hard things, that feeling is associated with something that's not good. I think somebody who's been doing hard things almost has like an appetite for doing hard things. You kind of crave doing hard stuff.
Yeah.
I can remember the first time I did a legit squat workout. I think it was 3x10, probably 135 or something like that. It was the first time that I ever worked up to a full range of motion bodyweight barbell squat. Went down to the bottom of the Oregon State football training area. It's this dungeon of a gym at the time. It's now, of course, they've got some multi-million-dollar facility, but it was this dark, dirty, old squat rack. And the strength coach was just like, all right, go put that bar on your shoulders and squat. Do 3 sets to 10 with whatever weight you can do. So me and my buddy were like, okay, we go over there and we start squatting. And I think the one thing he leaned back from in his chair from his office and yelled at was go deeper. So he knew at least that much to tell us to do that. I remember getting done with that and thinking that's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I think I need to do more of that.
Were you rowing at that time?
Yeah. I was on the crew. Yeah. It was,
so you were doing hard things in a different way. Yeah.
I had lifted in high school, but the only thing we really did was bench and leg press and a bunch of machine stuff, maybe some dumbbell accessories. Very low supervision kind of stuff. You know, tons of people in the room all doing it at the same time. But that was the first time I did a squat. And there was just something about it. It's like the full body, that was hard.
Yeah.
And for me, I had that intuitive sense like this, I think must be something I should do. I'm just wired, I think, to want to push hard like Henry. Like I just want to pull on the leash.
Oh, my dog. Feels better.
Yeah. But I think there's definitely times where, you know, that's with physical things.
Right.
There are some things where I've had to train myself to want to do things that are hard in a different sense. They're uncomfortable socially, maybe, or professionally. So I'm not trying to say I'm just like great at doing hard things.
Yeah.
I think it's just that different people are wired to do hard things that are in different channels of their human experience.
I think you're right, though. Over time, you start to associate with challenging as a good thing and even think, well, if this is hard for me, it must be the right thing that I'm doing, or it must be the right thing to do, where that can go the wrong way in training, like I did small of. And I don't think I even got a PR out of that. Small of is so high volume. And we really picked it because we were like, this looks so hard. It must be the thing to do.
Sure.
You know, and I always wonder what the difference is between, is this high friction and inefficient, or is it the right kind of challenge that we're up against?
Right.
So I'm always wondering about that. But, you know, if we just stick to like the physical component here, I've been thinking about that lately because like it came up for me. I go to this Globo gym, I call it 24-hour fitness. And lately I've just been seeing more, well, I see a lot of silly stuff there. I see a lot of skinny young guys in tank tops, just kind of, they're on their own physical adventure, which I'm stoked to see them there. I wonder what's inspiring them. Like, who are they following on Instagram and YouTube? That's like their channel, And I've been seeing a lot of like their girlfriends or lady friends or whatever, kind of following them around, or just like a couple where the guy's telling the girl what to do. And sometimes the guy looks like he knows what he's doing, and sometimes it's like the blind leading the blind.
Right.
And it's just, I feel for both of them, because the guy's doing something, it's usually arms. It's like curls or push downs, and their weight is an okay amount of weight. And then she's doing something almost minuscule, like 5 pounds, 10 pounds. And I can see in these people who are new, or maybe not even new, but I'll say undertrained, they have a lot more to do, that they don't know how to tap into that level you can get to after you've learned how to push hard.
Right.
And I feel for them because they're missing out on it. And they're missing out on building up that foundation to access that actual challenge, that right challenge, because it's productive.
Yeah.
I think they can get to something that is high friction, where it feels challenging in the moment, because maybe it's a bunch of reps and it's still something that they've never done before, but it's not meaningful.
Yeah. I think that touches on my issue or bone to pick with the popularity of what some call the evidence-based perspective on strength training, which is that there is research out there showing that any rep range or any weight can be effective for getting stronger or building muscle, with volume equated, and in the sense of that volume has to be hard sets, essentially, which assumes that people know how to go hard.
Yeah.
And I think under supervision, where you've got somebody saying and monitoring whatever the exercise is that they're doing to produce this research, where they can control the effort level a little bit more, basically yell at somebody until they truly get to muscular failure. But if you just go into the gym at the very beginning of your training and pick up whatever dumbbell you feel like you can do, or whatever cable resistance you can do, and try to push yourself to failure, you probably don't know what that really feels like. And you're probably not strong enough really to push yourself hard enough where you can get the amount of mechanical tension that you need to actually stimulate your body to create muscle or to get stronger. So that's why we keep coming back to this simple, hard, effective approach, because I think that doesn't have to be barbells. I just think barbells are uniquely hard, to go back to Matt's phrase, and specific at training that ability, while there is a balance component that makes them suboptimal for hypertrophy. Ideally, you're not having to balance. If you're just going for pure muscle mass, that's why machines are great. You can produce more force if you can load it up. But I think learning how to move and stay balanced is also part of the benefit of barbells, along with being able to titrate them much more effectively. Plate machines or even loadable leg presses make that harder.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. When you go in and you see the group of plaid pajama pants, Crocs, and broccoli hair doing single arm push downs.
Right. It's not enough.
50 pounds, it's not hard enough. And even if it was hard enough, they're going to have to do 20 exercises when you can get way more bang for your buck by just doing some heavy, hard, but doable bench press and overhead press.
I keep thinking of it like this, like going to a point. You've been there, like when you did that 3x10 at 135 on your squat. You go there when you train now. You go to this place where, especially on a good training day, you feel like if your capacity is like a light on a dimmer switch, you have a really powerful light bulb that can light up an entire warehouse. And you turn it up throughout the session, throughout the set, until it's like on full blast and the light is almost blinding. And it's taken years to get to that point. Like you have added how much, voltage you can bring to that power.
Yep.
And when someone's new, it's like a small light bulb, and even at that point, they might sometimes get to that full brightness.
Right.
But the longer you train and the more you take the time to like build a lot of muscle on your skeleton with like big movements that are heavy, you get a bigger light bulb, you get more power to it, and you increase the capacity of your dimmer switch.
Yes.
But there is a feeling where you're at full blast and when you're there because it feels really rewarding. You can't think about anything else.
Right.
And even after it, you kind of even have like a little bit of a, whoa, where was I?
Yeah.
And that's the feeling like I connect with emotionally, that I want everybody to experience. Everybody who's out there trying to build muscle and feel strong, that is what feeling strong feels like, where you can like totally turn that up.
I can see you getting emotional.
And like, I think people go there like in a cardio way, more equals like more things on the list. You know, you do a really long CrossFit workout or you do tons and tons of reps and you can get there, but it takes like a ton of reps. You get there almost just because you're tired. And I think that's a little bit different than going like full speed.
Yeah. Well, I think people really gravitate to CrossFit or spin class because there is a gateway to feeling like you've put it all out on the bike or, you know, or sometimes the barbell workout, you know, but you can flame out really quick on some of these workouts and get that feeling of your lungs burning, your muscles burning, creating a lot of heat and friction. But to your point, heat and friction aren't necessarily productive.
Right.
And I think many CrossFitters have probably experienced this, where if you just go and do CrossFit for a year, your WODs might improve, you might get a little bit stronger, but you very quickly plateau because it's not productive work. But it is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that makes me, you know, look at their recovery capacity.
Right.
You know, someone who's under-muscled and their connective tissue isn't adapted yet. They're working really hard, really, really hard. They're doing a ton of reps. No joke that they're going to somewhere where they've never been before, but they don't even have the ability to recover from it either.
Right.
So you're working super hard, but then you don't have the resources to actually build.
Yeah.
And so the first investment in training really has to be building.
Yeah.
And it still can be hard. You can still get to that point, but you have to learn how to do it. You have to build. It's not about taking away. And I think especially people who think that they want to, you know, like we were talking about the Jake Gyllenhaal thing last week, to look like that, they have to take away.
Right.
And you made that great point of like, no, you have to build for a long time.
Right. Probably most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's got to be uncomfortable. And I would put that in another bucket of hard is you've got to be willing to work really hard, and visually it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable for a while because you're probably going to have to put on some extra body fat. You're going to have to eat more than you're used to. You know, people might not understand or validate what you're trying to do. And I'm not saying go crazy. Please don't do what I did 10 years ago and add 60 pounds. But if you want to build, there's going to be some moments of difficult choices and behaviors there as well.
But even like the longer you train, when you get into that phase where you want to try eating more calories, it's so much fun because training feels amazing.
Yeah, it does.
Like I go through a point where I'm just like, you know, my yoga pants don't look the same. And I'm kind of sensitive to it. I put on like 1.5 pounds and I'm like, oh dear.
Yeah.
It's
the
a
margin
disaster.
is very small for you.
Yeah, my margin's very small. But then training is just so much freaking fun.
Yeah.
Like everything feels so good because you have more reps at that phase of like a high dimmer setting.
Yeah.
It just feels so good.
My emotional experience is on the front end of a set that you're not sure if you're going to be able to do it. And I think good training, good MED-based training is incrementally increasing the weight that you feel like you're not sure if you can do this. You've never done it before, and then you do it.
Yeah.
And you're in there on rep 2 or 3, and then there's this thought kind of like flashes through your brain, like, I don't think I can do this set of 5. That just happened to me last week. I think I did
It was
30.
Your squat. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a set of 5 at 430, which I've done many times before. So this wasn't for me the first time doing that. I've done 5x5 at 440. That was, 5-6 years ago. My training right now, where I'm at, a set of 5 at 430 is a pretty dang good set for me. And on rep 3, I kind of misgrooved it, if you will, didn't quite hit it, and had to go through that process in real time of setting aside the doubt and just going for the 4th rep. And then that one was better than 3. Now I'm more fatigued and I'm going into the 5th rep. And it's almost like your coach, Jillian, has said in the past on the podcast, where you really do have to kind of break it down to 1 rep at a time.
Yep.
And it starts to, when it gets really heavy, every single rep, I'm not sure if I can do this. And you do it. I'm not sure if I can do this. And you do it. I don't want to do this. And then you do it. And that process, I think, not only is physiologically what your body needs in order to generate enough mechanical tension to drive strength and hypertrophy, but then you also get all the psychological benefits that I think you're talking about, Matt talks about all the time with voluntary hardship, just consciously making that choice of doing something that you're not sure you can do and then proving to yourself that you can.
Yeah.
Game changer in
Such a
all
game
areas
changer.
of life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why people end up sticking with this type of training, is because they keep getting to experience that. You find you can always do more, feel like you actually have control over it.
Right.
Where you're not just like looking for something to feel sweaty. You're looking for results. You're looking for change.
Yeah.
You actually get to experience that.
Yeah. And it's this interesting combination. I think what really hooks people initially is, for a lot of people, seeing the numbers go up. And then relatively quickly, 6 to 8 weeks maybe, you start to notice the physical changes, especially if you're a novice. And those, quick hits, quick wins get people to stick around long enough to get the real wins, which are that if you're trying, we've talked about this before, if you're trying to change your body, fundamentally restructure muscle tissue, bone, connective tissue, the neurological pathway for contracting, turning the light bulb all the way up, these things take months and years to really build the kind of physique that people look at and say, that's what I'm aiming at.
Yeah.
So you have to get hooked on something long enough to get that future state. And I think that's the crux of that initial phase of training, why doing a simple linear progression is so powerful, because you get a little taste of it. Not many people get to experience that.
Yeah.
I think more people should. I think that's part of what
that's why we're so passionate
our
about
manifesto
this.
and our vision is. When you see those people in the gym that are throwing 5-pound dumbbells around, it's just like, man, they should know how to go heavy, go hard. It would change their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want people to experience like what they're capable of.
Yeah.
If you're going to try and be physical, like really be curious about what you can actually tap into. And I was actually even like, I thought about that watching professional athletes, except for golf. Like when you're watching like top level, really physical athletes, like we talked about like MMA fighters last week to some extent, and then watching football players, like they go till they're completely redlined. They are like performance at all costs. I think it's fun to see what that actually looks like with someone who's really high level genetically and when it's their career. And it's fun to, I think, get inspired by that when you're like doing your own training, where you're like, how can I achieve performance in this workout? And I think it's like a fun source of inspiration. But when we watch those high level competitors, like they are on a whole nother planet than most of us in terms of physical capacity, because their like dimmer switch goes really high and their light bulb is like super powerful.
Right.
But I think we each have the ability to go there if you train, if you build up to it.
Yeah. What about it brings up such powerful emotions?
Well, I think it's because it's like a really true connection to yourself. And I think we're always like, we spend a lot of time looking for that in like physically, in work, we're trying to really be powerful or express something or, be helpful. So what I've noticed in those moments where you kind of get to shut everything else out and focus on that rep is stuff that was maybe confusing in any part of your life where you're really trying to wrestle with a problem. You actually feel like you can think through it better. Like I've felt it going into a workout, wrestling with work problems, relationship problems just with myself, my own worst enemy kind of things. And then you go to this place where it's just like you and your body, and you like turn the light up really bright. And it's like after that, it's like a big release where you're just like, I can think through these problems differently now. I see them in a different way. Also, it's going to be fine. When you get to have that kind of outlet, like you relieve some stress so that like you get to like put that aside. You can think about the problem differently. I think that's what I want people to feel for themselves. It's like that moment of like, I got this. That's a cool moment.
It reminds me of, I used to meet director for USSF meets every year. And it was a huge logistics headache on the weekend, consumed an entire Saturday, usually a Friday night also getting set up. And every time I would be halfway through maybe the first or the second flight thinking to myself, what am I doing here? And then you get to the third attempts and it's like, oh, okay.
Especially deadlift.
That's why I'm here. Yeah, especially deadlift by the end of the day, because you
amazing.
see, and especially USSF, because it was not a elite powerlifting competition. These are people that are doing this as their hobby and have an outlet to go test their 1RM, where they really get to get on the platform in front of a bunch of people and go full dimmer switch.
Yeah.
And you just get to see that rep
Yeah.
after rep after rep. A whole bunch of people walking up to the bar. They have no idea whether they can get it.
It doesn't even matter what weight it is.
No.
At all.
I have had that feeling watching a 12-year-old lift 50 pounds. I've had it for a 70-year-old lifting 100 pounds. And I've also seen, a 700+ pound deadlift by a 19-year-old or whatever. And that was probably an exaggeration. Jackson exaggeration there. I think there was a 600-pound deadlift at 18 or 19. And it's still all that same energy that it was really fun for me to facilitate that kind of thing. And then also as a coach, obviously, we see it every single day. And that's, I think, the emotional connection that's universal, regardless of how much weight's on the bar, regardless of, what PRs or not even PRs. I've gotten that even, just for me that last week with that set of 5 at 430, nowhere near a PR for me. Well, actually kind of not too far off.
10 kilos.
Well, yeah. And it was my 5x5. It was kind of one of those fluke squat days that I was like, it was supposed to be like a 5-hour, one set of 5. And I just kept adding them on there because I thought it would be cool. And I kept doing it. My 5R, my true all out 5RM is probably not much more than that. But anyways, I have stopped caring about the number on the bar less and less over the years. And it's more and more about what you're describing. And I think what I'm talking about as well is that conscious choice to show up and do something hard and overcome it over and over and over again. And I think that's something that people should know how to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a life skill.
Yeah.
We just so happen to be in the context of putting weight on your back and doing some squats because you also get the added benefit of all the physiological things that come along with it. But I think that is almost like a sign that we're wired to do that. We've evolved and our body is rewarding, if you will, that choice. And we can see it physically and feel it. But the longer we study this and the longer we do it, the more benefit we find, whether it's psychological, neurological, or physiological, socially, the whole biosocial, psychological
having
model.
tough conversations. The more you practice that and think about it, the better you get.
Right.
And then the deeper your relationships can go.
Right. So the barbell just becomes this very safe, contained, measurable space where you get to flex that.
Yeah, totally.
In a really powerful way. And then that's why I think we see it carry over and over again to other aspects of life. It's got to be hard.
Yep. That's fun. Well, I hope everybody finds their hard. Love it. Well, I think that's all I got.
Hopefully. So I guess what would the nugget be? What's the takeaway besides feeling like people should do it and we see them at the gym? I don't know. Maybe we just ask people to send this to their favorite broccoli-headed teenager and their girlfriend.
Well, yeah. I'm thinking about it in like the phases of the lifter journey. So like there's the phase where I'll call it pre-barbell, where machines, dumbbells, cardio classes, they're looking for something, looking for community, looking to lose weight, looking for something. And something's going to introduce them to the barbell, to strength training. It's going to be CrossFit. It's going to be Instagram. It's going to be the TV segments we just filmed. They're going to hear about it enough times to want to try it. And then when you get to that phase, when you're starting to, put your hands on a barbell and have that in your program, like that's the part where you start building habits and it's worth it to invest in how you want to build your habits, which means like your form and your consistency and what your program is going to look like. That's what I think you need to really invest in someone who knows more than you do. That's the phase where it's not the best to just guess You can get results for sure. You can make progress, but just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that that would be the best for you.
How would you recommend somebody differentiate between somebody who looks like they know what they're doing and somebody that knows what they're doing?
Well, I don't think I did the best possible route.
Yeah.
I got into it from, it was mostly from CrossFit at that point. I had actually dipped my toe into powerlifting at first and I hated it. It was with who was my boyfriend at the time and his powerlifting coach. And it was like, old school powerlifting. Like I could barely squat 65 pounds and they had me put on knee wraps. Like it was not right for me. I was just all goobery. That was not right for me. So someone who I think is skilled at teaching people how to barbell train, which I'm trying not to just offer us, but like that's what the Barbell Logic Academy is for. The Barbell Academy is for. So that's a time to invest in a coach who works with everyday people. I think it can be great to hire a coach there are great coaches out there who train like very professional lifters, but a coach who maybe is a friend who coaches a friend of yours, or, you get to meet them and they connect with you, like they find out what's important to you. And when you tell them that it's strength, they're like, okay, let's get you used to the barbell. Let's look at your form. So form and a good connection and who can answer all of the questions that you have. Even if they don't know the answer to, they care about your experience of getting strong. So look for a coach who can help you with your form and help you with your program. I think that's probably way better than just bouncing around all over the internet and trying things.
Right.
So during that phase, be patient because like we've said a ton of times, it takes a long time to change your body. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
Like you are going to start squatting. Your first squat workouts are going to be 65 pounds. They're going to be 145 pounds. And you're going to wish that they were 4 times as much as that. And it's going to take you a while to get there. There's no other way around it. It's going to take you a while to get there.
Yeah.
And be patient with yourself because after you get through that phase, the sunshiny, wonderful novice phase, you get into this really kind of, I think it's a rocky intermediate phase where you still want more, but you actually can't be more yet. You need to invest another 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you need some more time figuring out how you respond to things, let your muscles keep growing, figure out how to manage your recovery habits.
Right.
Like you still have more years under the bar and you have to keep doing it. And so again, patience, but still keep your training to a point where you're doing reps and sets that are hard. You don't have to start doing sets of 20. Like you can actually keep it simple, even though you like the variable that you really need is time.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be, sets of 5, maybe sets of up to 8, some sets of 3s. You're going to get to dabble with singles, but keep putting in the work. It's like a bit of I think it can be a little less rewarding, but when you get through that phase and you get into like the more advanced, you kind of relax into it a little bit more. You're just like, sweet, I'm going to keep building. I'm going to keep doing this. It's part of my life now. And you end up hitting PRs. It still happens.
Sure.
But you get to also change your body more. You're going to move states, you're going to move jobs. Life is going to throw you some obstacles that you have to work with your training. But by then it's hopefully become an anchor or it's like a constant.
Right.
And then you've really invested. It just takes so much time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot longer than I think people are okay with investing in the beginning.
Yeah. I like the recommendation. I think I saw recently a pretty nice summary of kind of how to approach that beginner phase. I think it was Dr. Stacy Sims.
Okay.
I don't want to get her on the podcast, but
yeah, she's cool.
I think she's got the 3 to 5 rule of thumb where it's train 3 to 5 days a week with 3 to 5 exercises for 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps.
Yeah.
And you pretty much stick with that. Start out relatively easy and add a little bit of weight, minimum effective dose, keep it heavy but doable, and you'll drive a pretty good amount of progress. I'm putting this to the world selfishly because my favorite clients to get are the ones who have done that for 6 months, maybe a year, and then they get stuck because they've done it. They've kind of worked out some kinks, but they have no idea why it worked or like what the principles are. And we can kind of help them through that intermediate phase.
Yeah.
So anyways, those are my favorite. But I'm curious though, because your training, especially recently, is a very different type of hard that might look a little bit more like what the people you were talking about at the beginning are trying to do.
Yeah.
But it still fits in the same model. You're just a lifter who's been doing it for almost 20 years.
Yeah. My workouts are a lot higher reps. Most of my exercises are a lot higher reps, and I generally have more than 5 exercises per day. I do supersets and, sets of 15. I even do sets of like 50. Part of that is because I became limited with some of my joints in how heavy I could go. So like with my squat, I just can't go heavy without my back freaking out. And so that's not useful for me anymore. With deadlift, reintroducing that, those are low. I'm doing 3 to 5 reps.
Yeah, those are getting pretty heavy.
Those are going up in weight. I get to do 255 this week, and I'm really excited. And then with my bench, I messed up my shoulder in jiu-jitsu. I can't bench very much anymore. So how do I access that same amount of training effect without piling on more weight?
And that full dimmer.
And the full
feeling.
dimmer. Yeah, full dimmer feeling. And my goals are to keep building muscle. I also personally have the goal of, I love being in the gym, so I want to work out a lot. That's one of my most favorite things.
Yeah.
So build more muscle and spend time in the gym and then get to have that physical connection with my body. I really enjoy that time. So we've gone into more of what my coach calls just super, bodybuilding stuff where it's high reps. I get really fatigued. I do supersets. I do giant drop sets, but I still get to a point where it's select exercises where I need to go really hard. And then there are some where I need to actually keep some reps in the tank, but accumulate volume. And it's still, by the time I get to those in my workout, I'm still accessing this point where it's challenging.
Right.
But I have enough muscle and I have developed enough support of my joints that I can still move meaningful weight and still get to a challenging point.
Yeah, these are not 5-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
That you're doing 30 reps.
I do.
Unless they're front
lateral
raises.
Lateral raises.
Okay.
Sometimes with 5 pounds.
The exercise that is eternally 5 pounds.
That will never go up in weight. Maybe I'll hit 6. But yeah, most of the time it's heavy. It feels challenging.
Yeah.
But I'm able to still put all the light into it. It's not like I'm just barely holding on in CrossFit, just warming around push-ups. They're high integrity movement.
Do you think that the version of you started out training? I mean, you were the person following around your boyfriend in the gym.
Yeah. And even in high school, I was doing all the machines.
Right.
I better do 8 to 15 reps.
If you got the program that you were running right now, which many are RPE based, right? Not exact prescriptions. So you could theoretically have gotten, let's say, this template from the internet. Would it have been effective at helping you achieve the goals that you have?
I would be surprised. I really would be surprised. I think it would beat me up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it.
Right.
I would not want to go and do leg press workout. 50 reps, 40 reps, 30 reps, 20 reps, 10 reps, 20 reps, 30 reps, 40 reps, 50 reps after I have done squats and then do more leg exercises.
Right.
I would not be interested in that. I would have no idea how to recover from it. My arms would be so beat up, that
or
it
even
would
how
not
to
be
tell
for me.
that you needed to figure out how to recover from it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that gets missed frequently, or at least what's part of the learning process that happens over the course of a long training career is you learn what different things mean that your body is telling you. When you're first starting out, you're like, all you can really interpret is, ouch.
Yeah. I almost died from the P90X plyo workout.
Right.
There's no way I could be doing what I'm doing now.
So you have to develop a much broader palette of ouch.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people are resonating with, the heavy but doable.
Yeah.
I got a new one today, heavy but angry. That was interesting.
Love that. Okay.
But you start out with just one channel, the ouch channel. And then that kind of starts to be
it's a good way to put it.
different amounts of soreness. There's some where you don't feel sore, but you can tell a muscle just got really worked. And then there's the ones where you start drifting into a pain scale, differentiating between, I need to go to the hospital right now and get an x-ray versus, this is a knee tweak that I need to work through.
Yeah.
And, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine whose daughter's having a gnarly hamstring tendon issue. She's about to go into a college scholarship playing volleyball, and it's kind of scary. It's all sort of in the ouch bucket. And I was trying to talk to him about, ways that he might want to work with his physical therapist to kind of address it, but tried to frame it as a learning opportunity for her as a high school athlete who's really just been able to put pedal to the metal her whole life, and then you get that first injury, that first major kind of setback You have to broaden the palette of pain signals, of training signals, of recovery signals, and how to learn when you can push and when you push too hard. All of those things that you're being able to take into account now as an advanced lifter.
Yeah.
After lifting hard, heavy, but doable, lots of compound big barbell lifts, that has to be playing into why you're able to make it work for you.
It's taken us that long to, trust in the process where,
Right.
You trust that one set of 5 for the day is going to be enough.
Right.
You don't trust that when you first get started with this.
Yes.
And that's fair. You have to build that trust where it's just like, I spend a lot of my time wondering if I'm doing enough. I did a lot of that as a lifter. Now it's like, okay, I think I can trust this process.
I mean, to go full dimmer switch for 3 exercises, that's probably about all you can really do, even as an advanced lifter.
I mean, becomes like 1 a session.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can accumulate extra volume, but 90% of the work is happening with those full dimmer switch sets. And I think that's why that 3 to 5 set, especially for a new lifter, is so important.
Yeah.
And also another reason for just using barbells in general for most of our clients, time is a huge variable. So if I can get some work done where it may not be optimal for all of the muscles, but I can prioritize, 2 or 3 major muscle groups getting exercise, and then a whole bunch of other muscles in a compound movement are going to get some work. I'll take that
really
over the single arm,
Absolutely.
press down all day.
It's cool.
Hopefully we can help other people learn what they should be doing. I mean, it's already exciting even in the last 10 years. You have to admit, when you go into the gym now, like 24-hour fitness, Globo Gym, pretty normal to see all of the squat racks in use with people doing full range of motion squats, deadlifts. I'm even seeing power cleans at a commercial gym now pretty regularly with decent amount of weight on the bar.
It's really cool.
So I think things are changing.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get to be part of spreading the gospel.
Yep.
The gospel of hard.
Well, thank you for listening. We're excited to be back with you next week. Thank you, Andrew.
My pleasure.
And if you enjoyed this, we'd love a review and we'd love a share. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.